Alrighty, hi everyone. Welcome to another episode of To Find a Jedi. Sort of a 2-in-1 episode this time. I'm your host, Inquisitorius Sinbin. This is my co-host, my wonderful husband, Marshall, who does not have much of an online moniker like I do.
Nope.
No, but that's fine. We love you anyway.
Yes.
Your name is already kind of a moniker.
Yeah.
So fun story. Today is our anniversary.
Yep.
And yes, happy 4 years
4 years.
of being married, love. And from the day that we met, I put him in my phone as Grand Marshal, last name. And so, like, he was literally always a title.
Yes.
It felt only appropriate with, like, Grand Admiral, Grand Inquisitor, whatnot. But this is Grand Marshal, so... Welcome, Grand Marshal. Thank you for talking with me about Star Wars.
You're welcome.
At length, as always.
As if this isn't something that happens naturally, anyways.
Yeah. We've already had a few chats about this, but we tried not to spend too much time dwelling on it, so we could save some of it for the podcast. So welcome everyone. Obviously, this time it's kind
Actual
of
post show.
Yeah, it is an actual post show. Last time it was just kind of speculation.
Episode 0.
Yeah, we talked about some of the things that we'd like to see. I feel like some of those things maybe were in there, like specifically the animal content that we asked for, that we squeezed in right at the end there. We said, Rebels did animals so well, and we would love to see more Star Wars wildlife in this series. And boy, did they give us the cutest cat. Every single scene that it was in, it was like, very, very good. Except sometimes it was not very cat-like, which was very interesting. I was like, oh, Dave Filoni maybe has never been around a cat because, there's that scene where Sabine is feeding the cat, and the cat's just sitting there like, wow.
I mean, it's also a space cat, so maybe space cats are more patient.
Yeah. Not like,
screaming as if they're starving to death.
I'm starving. I'm going to wither away. Which leads to some interesting points at the end of the episode, which
we'll get to it.
Yeah, we'll get to that. So we wanted to start off today talking about the things that, like, really, really stood out. Instead of going in chronological order, we're going to go through, like, the scenes that were like, wow, I'm so glad that they did this. So, Marshall, which scenes kind of stood out to you?
I mean, it was... I liked, being on Lothal again. It was cool.
Seeing Lothal...
Is that the first time I've seen Lothal...
Live action?
Live action? Okay.
That's correct.
So I thought. Seeing Lothal live action and like, definitely... like them reimagining set pieces from Rebels to be in live action, like the highway.
Yes, the highway is so vivid in my mind from Rebels, and so it was very cool to see that again. And the speeder bike chase, like Rebels starts in the very first episode with Ezra
stealing from the Rebels, from the Imperials.
Ezra stealing from the Rebels who are stealing from the Imperials.
Yeah.
Chasing on that same highway, and they kind of have like a very similar thing where there's a roadblock that they have to overcome. So I thought that was a very nice nod too. Yeah,
there's definitely a lot of nods to it.
Yes, of course. I know that one of the things going into the show was a lot of people are like, oh, it's kind of like a Rebel season 5, and like I kind of think that it is like a natural continuation of the show.
It's got all the characters, I mean, and it's the similar.
Well, not all of the characters.
Well, right, but
some of them are dead.
Well, that's right.
And some of them are just on.
Some of them we haven't met back up with yet.
Elsewhere, yeah. I mean, Zeb is presumably around.
King is not dead; he's a wolf, right?
Well, okay. He's one with the Force.
And he's a wolf.
And sometimes that means taking the form of a wolf.
Yeah.
But the wolf is not here. Well, I mean, there's a wolf in the credits.
Yes.
There's like a drawing of a wolf in the credits, which is kind of nice. I liked all of the artistic nods.
Yeah, I doubt they're going to have him show up, but I assume that it's just a reference to what happened.
But maybe his son?
Oh, his spirit... Well, oh, you're talking about Jason Segura. Okay, right, sorry. I was thinking like a ghost son. I was thinking
The wolf is a ghost, and the wolf has a ghost son as well. You heard it here first, folks.
Yep,
You know what?
Episode
That is
3.
not Rebels theory that I've heard before. So congratulations, Marshall.
No, Jason, we'll see.
Hopefully we'll see Jason. That would be good. One of the major things that that stood out to me, the most purely delightful scene, I think, for me was when Hera and Chopper are chasing after this transport that has this hyperdrive on it, and they are just doing their little banter back and forth. And Chopper is so clearly understandable of like, no, I didn't.
Yes, they definitely went a lot more straightforward. Basically, just like his voice is just kind of like put through several filters, but it's actually a person saying something.
Yes.
But seeing Chopper again was good.
Yes, definitely, and just that was like a source of definitely like unbridled joy for me. Like there were things that I liked other than that in the episode, but like that one was like just I was so in the moment, just enjoying having everything back. And it felt very in character for both Hera and Chopper. That was like recapturing the joy of Rebels for me.
Chopper spun his head in through something. It's very... Yeah.
I personally, I love the emotion that he does when he takes his arms and he like flips them down. Like he's like putting his shoulders up. That was very funny.
Chopper's probably my favorite Rebels character.
Well, agree to disagree.
Yeah, I mean, obviously.
But he's pretty good.
I do like Chopper.
Did you have any other moments?
I'm trying to go through the first scene we see Balin and
Shin.
Shin.
We don't know. They didn't say her name.
Yeah. First time we see them show up was awesome. Seeing them murder all the... And I called it
my God.
right off the bat. She pointed out... Mon Calamari?
There's a Mon Calamari who's
rebel
like...
soldier.
He's a rebel soldier. And
he has a big dumb egg hat.
Yeah, but it's like sitting so high on his head because his head is so big and his eyes are so big. And I'm like, oh my gosh.
Cute.
He's so cute.
I was like, he's going to die first.
Yes.
And he absolutely dies first.
He's the first one to die. So he called it. I was like, oh, they're so cute. It's like immediately
massacred. Yep.
How dare I like a character?
Yep.
That is how we know that a character's going to die, is because I express some kind of emotion about it.
He's the one Mon Cal. I mean, they all died, but he died first.
They don't all die. What's his name? Radis. Radis is still alive.
No, not Mon Cal. I'm talking about the group that was there on the ship. Like, I
thought you were asserting that every Mon Cal.
No.
I was like, I'm pretty sure Admiral Akbar is still very much alive.
Everyone on that ship, and then that little platoon died, but he specifically died first.
And when we see it again later, it's like totally fucked up, and it's like, whoa, 2 people did all of this damage, like whole like bits are flying off the ship and everything. It's like, whoa.
Yeah.
So another scene that I really enjoyed is the scene when Sabine is recovering in the hospital, and she has this banter with Hu Yang.
Yes.
Which it was very cool to see, like different like characters that they could bring in from the Clone Wars and Rebels that were like maybe not the most expected characters.
Yeah.
I
was like, oh, it's David. You were like, is that David Tennant? I was like, oh yeah, that is David Tennant.
Yeah.
Totally
I'm very glad too that they got the same voice actor, David Tennant, of course, to play him in live action too. It was very, very cool because he was basically in like one arc of the Clone Wars.
Yeah.
With like the younglings finding and building their lightsabers, which was a very cool like philosophical arc that we very much enjoyed, and like it's been built off of in like the Jedi Fallen Order video games and everything. So like it's definitely an arc that had a lot of impact. So it was very cool for them to bring this kind of like relatively obscure character back into live action, and I thought that his kind of like encouraging but also kind of roasting Sabine a little bit was very refreshing. Especially when he's telling her, like, oh, well, I've known so many Padawans, and all of them were more skilled than you, or whatever. It's not the exact verbiage he uses, but kind of like, well, all of them had a greater affinity for the Force than you did. Which, I mean, at first it could read as kind of callous, but I think the way that they act in the scene, it's kind of... The impression that I got was that it's like, he knows that the way to get to Sabine is by telling her, well, I know people who are better at it than you, as opposed to like scolding or
get an egg on.
Yeah, exactly. Instead of like giving wisdom or like scolding her, he's just like, well, I know people who can do it better. and the kind of smile that she gives afterwards and everything. She's like, thanks, but I kind of get that impression. Like, to me, they clearly have a past repertoire that we haven't seen it explicitly at all, but I get the sense of what happened between them just from that kind of scene right there, and also her tinkering. It was very good to see her tinkering again, because like that was very much a part of her in Rebels, is that she was kind of like the hacker, and she was very like, she went to the Imperial Academy, so she understood the machines very well. So it was very kind of cool to see that side of Sabine again. I'm glad that didn't get like forgotten or anything. Like, to see her, and he's getting all nervous as droids do, and he pulls the plug and everything. I thought they really have a chemistry there, and even though we haven't seen what led to that, you get the sense of it just by the dialogue and interaction and everything. And I thought that was a really delightful moment.
I like hearing in most of his interactions.
Yeah.
In the 2 episodes.
Did you have anything else that stood out to you?
I mean, the...
Oh, okay. So, one of the things that I also really enjoyed, this one's a little bit silly, but obviously this is the #1 Marek fan club here. We stand.
Oh, yes.
We stand an Inquisitor very hard here, and even though he doesn't have a single line of dialogue, I think one of the funniest moments. One, he shows up in a cape immediately to throw it.
Yep.
Very dramatically, which was, I think, very fun. And then he's fighting Ahsoka, and then like all of a sudden he like checks his Apple Watch. He's got a notification. His embedded Apple Watch on his arm. He's got a notification, and then just all of a sudden he just takes off running.
Yep.
And it was a funny moment, but what made it even better is that Marshall is like, ha! You literally do your characteristic like, ha! Laugh, and then you go, adios, bitch. Because he just like throws it. He's like,
oh, time to go.
Oh, bye.
Deuces. Takes off a full sprint.
That was very fun. I thought the combat sequence was very fun too.
The
choreography was very fun.
In the show were all good.
Yes. Yeah.
And so thinking back through the show, the opening scene where we see Ahsoka, where she does a Jedi Survivor / Fallen Order puzzle map, basically, was really fun to see, because it was just like, oh, I just finished doing this for 60 hours. It's like moving all the things and lining up the shiny bits and making the balls light up. Yeah. It was like straight out of Jedi Survivor. So
you'll be happy to know, Marshall, that you are not the only person who felt that way, and we were sitting there streaming like, oh, it's like a Zepho temple. This is going to be a Zepho temple. And especially when Morgan's like, oh, these people came thousands of years before. We're like, the Zepho. Yeah. And then she's like, the Dathomirian Night Sisters.
That was wild.
But just so you know, we were not the only people to think that was a Zepho temple.
Yeah. I mean, long-faced shrunken figures is not exactly a unique design. So I guess it's understandable why we maybe mistook it for one of the other long shrunken faced people. Well, and
it was not just the pictures of like the images of the people themselves. It was like the setting and the kind of like the architecture itself, like all the lines in the floors, like making maps, and the big metal balls are going to make it the Zepho.
Yeah, it's a lot of like very smooth rock with shiny metal embedded in it.
Yeah.
It was like,
And typically when we think of Night Sisters, we think of something like a little bit more crude, right? Like we think of like definitely red.
Yeah.
Like red everything.
Red and vines and spiders.
And wooden traps and cauldrons and whatnot. So like I think it's natural for your brain to go Zepho with that aesthetic instead of going Night Sister, because like it's a little bit different than what we've seen from the Night Sisters.
I would never have guessed Night Sister.
No, even though they spent a long time dwelling on their faces, and there was one moment where it showed one of the figures, and they had like a kind of a tall, rounded, pointed hat, and I went, "Oh, that looks like Talzin's Mother Talzin's hat," but it wasn't enough for me to be like, "Oh, this is a okay."
No, it is a hat, but I've never thought about it as a hat before. Nice hat, Brother Talzin.
Her ceremonial headpiece.
Yes, her ceremonial headpiece.
It looked like her ceremonial headpiece. And that was like, I had a flash of that, but it, like, overall, the aesthetic pushed me more Zepho, and we had already been thinking of it in that terms. Like, that was a really cool shot. Especially to,
was really cool.
Yeah, like, kind of begin the show with, like, it was, like, a little bit more calm and, like, laid back and less action-packed, but, like, I didn't hate that. Like, it felt very meditative. It felt very cool. I liked that scene a lot. And I liked the scene, again, kind of silly, but at the very end, when I keep wanting to call her Morgana, but it's Morgan.
Morgan Elsbeth.
Morgana, because she's a witch, and Morgana from Arthurian legend. Anyway.
Also, Morgan is just like a person name from like the United States in the year 2023.
I know a Morgan there, not from the United States. So.
Well, you know what I mean. It's from the.
No one else in the world is allowed to be called Morgan.
Yeah. Morgan Elizabeth.
Elsbeth.
Yeah.
But it does sound
Elizabeth.
like two people names.
Elizabeth.
Anyway, she says something about handling Ahsoka or whatever once and for all, and Balin says like, "Oh, that would be a shame," but he says it in a way that's like, "Oh, that would be a shame." His character was delightful.
I like Balin.
I like him a lot. He already won us all over, but maybe we're just baddie fans here in this household. But he's like, "Oh, that would be such a shame. There's so few Jedi left," and then he's standing right next to an Inquisitor who used to be like a Jedi hunter.
Yeah.
It's like, do you want to ask the person just to your right for their opinion?
Well,
like,
I'm the Jedi.
He's Marek there just sharpening his blade going, shame. Yeah, real shame.
Real shame.
Real shame. Real shame. That would be.
Also, if any of the recent Star Wars shows have shown us anything, there are still quite a few Jedi actually left. After Order 66.
Hey, compared to the millions or whatever.
There were a lot more before, but there's way more than you thought there would have been afterwards.
So few, especially one in particular that we kind of have a little bit of a debate about, which is Sabine herself.
Yeah, okay. So, unless I missed something, the fact that she's Force sensitive is a revelation in this show.
I think it's kind of a little bit of a strangeness that we're not really sure how to address.
No, and it's weird because, I mean, I don't remember her giving any kind of implications of that.
Right, like she trained with Kanan with the lightsabers, but it wasn't really indicated. Well, obviously,
she had the Darksaber, and she needed to learn how to use that. But
yes, and now she has Ezra's saber.
The Darksaber's not tied to Force wielding. Right,
obviously we've seen Din Djarin and Bo-Katan and all those people wield it as well.
Which are normies.
Non-gifteds. I want a shirt of Bo-Katan and Din Djarin on it that just says normies on it for us. But it was a surprise, and like it's kind of like the show itself is not yet. I mean, not to say that it won't in the future, but not really giving us a clear answer on what these conversations mean, where Ahsoka tells Sabine that she thinks she would make a great Jedi.
She's not.
Right. Well, there's conversations about her not being ready, but like, Ahsoka says something along the lines of, "You would have made a great Jedi."
Yeah.
Or something along those lines. And then you have Huyang, who says, every single Jedi and Padawan learner I've ever known has been more adept at the Force than you. So, I mean, obviously we know that within the Star Wars universe, the Force flows through every living being. So it's not that people are with the Force and without the Force. But I guess this is kind of introducing us to the idea that there's like a spectrum of it, that some people can be Force sensitive enough to be noticeable, whereas others, like, maybe they have a proclivity to it, but they're not able to like harness it in the same way. And it's kind of unclear where Sabine falls in this, and it's kind of like a new thing to address. So I'm not saying they won't address it in the future. Maybe they will show us what Sabine's capable of and everything. It's an interesting thing to explore, and I certainly hope that they will give us like a little bit more answers instead of leaving us hanging a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, this is supposed to be a one-off show, so I would hope that they answer it in the show.
Yeah. That would be good.
But yeah, I mean, I always assumed that there were people like super powerful Jedi or Sith that like Yoda or Darth Sidious or like going back and it's not canon anymore, but like Darth Nihilus, like the guy that ate the planet,
Right.
that were like extremely powerful and almost pure Force energy. And I also assumed that on the other end there were people that like maybe could turn a wrench really hard or like had heightened reflexes for like being a pilot, or maybe they were a little smarter, or they were pick up on things, just stuff that's like Force enhanced, but they're not like moving stuff around with their hands or doing psychometry or shooting Force lightning or being able to dwell in the Force and sense other Force users.
And I guess this is something that's kind of brought up a little bit in Rebels, and more so in Servants of the Empire, that novel series that kind of ties into Rebels. Because when we see like the Rebels like Academy episodes, like very early on in season 1, the cadets in that Imperial Academy that meet certain criteria are sent to Arcanus, and Grint and Oresco refer to it as like the Inquisitor's special criteria.
Yeah.
So there kind of seems to be this like scanning of anyone who is like a little bit too good at the training gets sent off for like further investigation by the Grand Inquisitor himself. So that might mean too, like, because he says that Jai Kel might meet this criteria. And of course we get to see him.
Yeah.
In this, I thought that was a really cool nod to have this character that's like from very early Rebels.
Very early, yeah.
Back in this show. I thought that was a nice nod to have. But like he met the Inquisitor's special criteria, whatever that means. Like he was good enough to be sent to this to Arcanus, and maybe that means we're scanning for Force sensitive people, or maybe just people who are like so good, maybe on Sabine's level, like they're good enough to do well in their exams and be trained into like officers, but not Force sensitive enough to be considered like future Jedi, like the children of the Force that he's tasked to hunt down. So,
because but it also seems like you can either be like you have a ton of Force power like Anakin, and you just need to figure out how to focus it.
Yeah.
And then there also seems like you can practice the Force and become better at it.
Yeah.
So you can like either start up here and bring your skill up to here, or start down here and go in the same direction. So it's like it's kind of unclear as to, or not unclear, but like there's multiple ways, I guess, to become more. Like you might not be stuck at
no level
turning light switches off from across the room. You could maybe get better.
God, if only we could all wish that we could just like flick on and off all light switch from across the room. I'm sure that and like grabbing things that are just out of arm's reach are like the Force powers I know we all wish we could have. And everyone has tried.
Force lightning would be pretty cool.
Okay.
Not necessarily. But yeah, sure, flicking a light switch. Aim for the stars if we're going to talk about telekinetic capabilities.
I want to be able to lift things with my mind.
Just kill an entire room of people with my hands.
All right, awesome. But you never like looked at something that was like just out of arm's reach and like kind of reached out your hand, like tried.
Oh yeah, I mean,
everyone has.
I used to pretend with automatic doors.
Yeah, of course, everyone does that. There's a human emotion.
Yeah.
Congratulations, everybody who grew up on this planet Earth with Star Wars. We all like to pretend that we have the Force in that very specific way.
Stare at a teacher I didn't like and just.
Oh god. So yeah, I think that's like relatively the stuff that like stood out to me. What about?
Yeah, I mean the again, like seeing the ships and stuff realized in live action is always really cool.
Yes, that joy that we felt when we saw Phantom 2.
Yeah, Phantom 2 and I guess it's not a Delta class, but whatever that.
Oh yes, the shuttle that Baylan and Shin have. It like after the first shot of it coming in, we really thought that it was a Delta class because of like the really tall.
It's definitely based on a Delta class. Like it's got a big tall fin and the big floaty wings. So it's like
but like the Delta class has like those sharp angular, but it's not. sadly. I kind of wish it was. That would be
But they
awesome.
have the Imperials and even the First Order all have a ship like that. That's like has the triangle.
Well, like
wings.
the Lambda shuttles also look like that. I would say
and
it's
Kylo
like
Ren's.
Well, Kylo Ren's
shuttle.
is a tie, like a modified tie.
No, I'm talking about the one we just built
Yeah,
recently.
You're
That has
right.
like the big flat face to it.
Yeah.
That's up there. Yeah.
We've got. Yeah, but that's a tie. Look at it. It's got 4 wings.
Mm-hmm.
First shelf.
One up there.
That's the Delta class. That's Krennic's shuttle.
Oh, Krennic. Sorry.
The Kylo Ren's is right there.
Right.
Kylo Ren's also has a big backwing shuttle too.
Anyways, the point stands.
As we pointed
bad
out
guys,
Legos that you can't
specifically the ones in the big militaries, they all have 3 wing shuttles with one big thing that sticks up at the top.
Very, very funny to us that the protagonists could not recognize immediately, like could not once
like look at it and be like, "Oh, that's a bad guy." Like
only baddies fly ships like that.
Yeah.
Clearly, no one else has 3-finned tall ships. It's only the baddies. Also, can we talk about how bad the New Republic is at transporting prisoners?
Yeah, it's like one of their biggest weaknesses.
First you lose Gideon, and now you've lost Morgan.
From like a huge ship.
Yeah, I mean, Gideon was in like a little transport. But
yeah, but apparently it doesn't matter.
Yeah,
it doesn't matter how big the ship is because they're totally...
You will get just totally stolen off the ship.
Yeah, very easily.
Which kind of brings me a little bit to some of the things like we're not going to try to be like super negative about this, but we're going to kind of give a little bit like obviously we talked about the things that we really enjoyed about it, and now we're kind of going to step back and talk about things that we like maybe wish were done a little bit better, maybe we hope to see them improve on going forward. One thing that I noticed is that there were some things that were kind of shot for shot things that we've seen before very recently, but not in like a nostalgic way. So like there is a shot on Lothal where like it's focusing on the communications tower and the highway, and then there's like a wah, wah, and the Loth Cats pop their heads up, and I'm like, oh, that's a scene straight out of Rebels. That makes me feel like a nostalgic affinity. That's a positive reuse of shots, I think. I think that was a very cool thing to include. On the other hand, we are once again ending episode 1. Well, in Kenobi it was episode 2, but we're kind of ending a premiere episode of a new Star Wars show by stabbing a Star Wars Rebels character directly in the gut with a lightsaber.
Yeah.
This has happened twice now, and it's like, okay, hold on. Kenobi only happened a year ago. And kind of the explanation given was, and I would have loved to see Sabine like wake up in the hospital with her little like tiny little like cigar burn wound that she has in her side and just go, revenge is quite the motivation to live.
Yeah. Totally turns it. Hey, you know what would have been a great plot development? Sabine turning to the dark side in the first episode.
I find revenge is... I forget exactly what he says.
That's in the ballpark.
Yes, it's basically revenge is very good motivation to keep living. So I don't know that Sabine's heart was full of revenge.
No.
I don't know what kept Sabine alive from the same injury that killed Qui-Gon Jinn. But, you know, it's Star Wars, so we'll just say people...
I mean, apparently you can just, like, give up on yourself in the Force, because that's what Yoda did.
Revenge does wonders for the world.
Yeah. Yes,
that would have been great. Sabine was like, I must get revenge!
Yes. But, yeah, it's, you know... It just seems like there's other ways to, like, drive the story forward. Like, so many people have gotten stabbed in the gut with lightsabers, and like specifically in a place that's non-lethal and that even a person today could recover from.
Yeah.
Like, you could get stabbed in the gut with a sword today and live from it. So it's not like, it's not showing how cool their technology is, and it's just kind of like, can we have another way to like almost kill somebody? You know?
Yeah, it just seems like something that's done for shock value without any real consideration to how it moves. Because like we know Sabine's not dead, just like in Kenobi, we know the Inquisitor's not dead.
Yeah.
Because obviously he shows up in Rebels, so he can't be dead. And like Sabine is like the main character of this, and we've seen her with the short hair. It's like obviously she can't be dead, so it's not like suspense. No. We're not like, is she gonna make it? Is she gonna be okay? Yeah, no, so it's just like, it seems like it's done to be like a shocking thing, but like, you know, I will say in Kenobi it was shocking. Like, I did not expect that. I didn't believe it, but I didn't expect it. Whereas in this, when it happened, we were like, all right, whatever.
Yeah.
So like, I think it like totally lost its effect the second time around. Like, honestly, like, I think we just like kind of immediately laughed, even though it's like it's supposed to be a very serious moment. It's like we just saw this.
Yeah.
Like, they already did this, and we know that Sabine's still alive. So like, kind of. And it doesn't hang long enough as a moment for you to really like dwell on it or feel emotional about it. So kind of
she's like fixed pretty quickly.
Yeah.
And and obviously all these characters are going to have plot armor because they're like the main characters. But there's other ways to like cause characters distress and like put them through trials that aren't immediately obvious that they're going to make it through. Like when I see it was the same problem with like the last season of The Mandalorian, where it's like I know nothing's going to happen
to Grogu.
Oh,
they're not going to kill the $1 billion baby?
Yeah, like so whenever someone like that is put in jeopardy, it's like, okay, well, instead of any suspense, it's like, well, when are they gonna? They're gonna fix this. When are they gonna fix this?
Could you imagine
if they kill Grogu? Oh man, I gained so much more respect for Star Wars characters if they just murder that little guy.
By the way, we think he's very cute.
I love Grogu. I'm just saying,
he's very cute.
It would be like, wow, they like
no one is safe. No one is safe.
Yeah, no one is safe except everyone is safe.
They killed the baby.
They killed the baby.
No.
Well, that's the theory behind him being inside BB-8. His corpse is inside BB-8. That's a fun comedy pasta.
I felt more peril when Sabine was like leaving to like put on her armor and everything, and she opens the door and her cat is still there. I'm like, who's gonna feed the cat?
Yeah.
Who's gonna feed the cat?
Or like they blew up. They had the whole attack. It's like, well, they just killed that cat for sure.
Oh yeah, when the rebels are when the robots when the robots are there and they're all the robots don't blow up the
no, but there's quite a bit of violence inside.
Yeah, and we're like, oh my god, the cat's gonna die.
That cat's dead.
The cat's gonna die, and then Sabine gets stabbed in the gut, and it's like, should be fine.
Should be fine. We know.
Yeah, it wasn't a big emotional thing. Now, I will say that I thought that the scene of Sabine putting her armor back on was a very big win.
That was cool.
I thought that was like, again,
cutting her hair and getting all her back out and all that.
Yes, I thought that much like the beginning sequences, like there's no dialogue whatsoever. They're completely silent, and it's like very reverent, and like I definitely felt something about her journey coming back into the armor in that scene. So that's another thing that I think they did very well.
Yeah, I enjoyed that.
Yeah.
It was a good sequence.
So there were definitely things about this that we really enjoyed. But there were also kind of some moments, like I felt Sabine was pretty in character.
Yes.
Through this whole thing. The sequence in the beginning where she misses the ceremony, I totally agree that it's totally in character for her to flake on the ceremony. Like, absolutely. One thing that I think the other characters aren't considering so much is that, like, obviously this is, if it's the anniversary of the Battle of Lothal, this is the anniversary of Ezra and Thrawn disappearing. So, like, this is a big deal for her. She lost a big chunk of her family. This is also around the time that Kanan would have died, because that was also, like, around the time of the Battle of Lothal and everything. So, she's lost a father figure. She's lost a brother or lover figure, depending on who you subscribe to, or a friend. I mean, at the very least, a very close friend. She lost these people who were very important to her on this same day. So it makes sense to me that she would, like, flick. And it makes sense to me to have this, like, cool girl sequence where we're still enjoying Sabine is still the character that she is from Rebels, but she's a little older now, and have her speeding away on the highway, listening to her J-punk rock girl music. I thought that was great.
Yeah.
The one thing that I was kind of like a little, why are we doing this? Why is the government of Lothal chasing her like she's a criminal for not showing up to this event?
She has like the rank of a commander.
Yes, they call her Commander Sabine or Commander Wren. I don't know.
Yeah, Commander Wren.
Yes,
but they're like telling her what to do.
Yeah,
it's like doesn't seem. Didn't make any sense.
They're like, find her, bring her here.
Yeah.
Ryder Azadi is like...
Yeah, the governor.
The governor of Lothal is like, I want her here right now. And they're like, they're making like a blockade and they're blocking off all of the exits. And it's like, is she a commander or a criminal?
Like a political prisoner.
Yeah, that was an odd choice for me. I think it makes sense to have her speeding away from the ceremony and everything. Like, that totally fits with her character. It's very strange for her to be like physically chased down. And of course, it's like, it's very obvious where she's going. There's only one thing at the end of this highway. And we saw her living there at the end of Rebels. So, like, clearly she has been living here for, like, a decade now.
Yeah, basically, yeah.
And it's like, this is very obvious that this is where she is. And it's like, where could Sabine have gone? Where is she? Bring her here! As if she doesn't, like, stay in... Like, she doesn't constantly go back to the same place. And the same thing happens, too, with when she takes the map.
Yeah.
And Hu Ying has to make a comment like she's in the old communications tower. Like, y'all didn't know that?
Yeah.
I thought it was kind of obvious. I mean, the one other place that I could have considered was the Jedi Temple on Lothal, but it was destroyed by the Inquisitors. But I'm like, you know what? Maybe they rebuilt it. You know, that would be a cool.
Or you could just like go hang out around outside of it. I guess outside of it.
I thought it would be very cool, actually, if
they tried to rebuild some of it.
Yeah, if Ahsoka and Sabine tried to rebuild the Jedi Temple on Lothal together.
Yeah. And
they showed it again, like kind of like pieced back together. That would be awesome, actually.
Yeah.
I thought that would be very cool. But yeah, that's not what happened. And nobody knows where Sabine is in the place that she very obviously lives. So I thought that was kind of an odd choice.
That's weird. Some weird writing choices.
Did you have any other kind of standout, like kind of that's odd?
Ahsoka.
Well, yeah. Let's talk about the namesake character of the show.
So morose.
She is.
And she didn't, like, you've got one of, like, she's a very good actress. I would say she's one of my favorite actresses, Rosario Dawson, who has a range and has played a huge range of characters throughout, you know, her 20-something years of being an actress. But all she does is this. That's all she does. And then she folds her... Oh my god, she folds her arms every time. That's her period, like her way she punctuates a sentence. It's just folding her arms like, why is she so stiff? It's like it's like either bad writing or bad direction. Because it's not her, like, she must be acting to what they told her to act to, because we all know, if you've seen her or anything before, you know what she's capable of, and it's much more than like squinting and folding her arms. Yes, that over and over again for an hour and 36 minutes.
I also think that, well, okay, so I can see kind of both sides of this particular point. In the moment of watching the show, it was jarring to me because we mostly see Ahsoka as like Anakin's Padawan Ahsoka, who's like very sarcastic, very much shrugging off the rules. And it does make sense to me that after Rebels Season 2, finding out that her mentor, who she cared very deeply for, turned into Darth Vader.
Yeah.
That would have a huge emotional impact on her, and that might cause her to be a little bit more cynical. But she does return in Rebels after that point, and we don't see her as being this very cynical person. You know, maybe the war has changed her and whatnot, and that's okay. But it did feel very jarring because we know her as a very, like, even when situations are very bleak, making jokes and everything, and she is like Anakin. She's very much like Anakin, and it was especially jarring to me anytime Sabine breaks the rules when she is very, very stern with her. Yeah. When it's kind of like, well, you and Anakin were thing 1 and thing 2. Which maybe that is part of the scars of realizing Anakin is Darth Vader, is realizing, well, like...
trying to do everything opposite to what he did. Maybe.
Yes, yeah. Maybe, like, what we did was wrong. Like, maybe you should follow the rules of the Council and everything, and that will make you a better Jedi, and what we did led him to the dark side. Maybe. I don't know, because it's not really talked about yet. Hopefully it will be kind of addressed. I don't feel like she was really this way in The Mandalorian, but we didn't see very much of her either.
She likes smiling in the Mandalorian, so she wasn't this way in the Mandalorian. And if it was something I felt like that, it did, because none of the other characters felt like they thought it was weird. Like none of them was like, "Hey, what's crawled up Ahsoka's ass?" You know, no one was like, "Whoa, what's wrong? What's wrong with her? Someone's pissing her Cheerios." Like, it's just like, "Oh, this is how Ahsoka is."
Yeah.
But it's like, it's just a weird choice to make, because you can still have all the things you just mentioned, and also have your main actress. You know.
Yes. She could have showed negative emotions too. She did seem kind of flat across the board. That like, even when Sabine messed up, like I would expect that if her thinking behind this was Anakin and I constantly shrugged off the rules and look at what happened to Anakin, that her reaction to Sabine breaking the rules might have been more severe. Like, instead of, like, they give Sabine her space, which I think is, like, an appropriate emotional reaction to do. Like, I think Sabine needed her space.
She's an adult now.
Yes. Oh, God, that kills me. Everyone's treating her like she's 19 still when she's, like,
28.
Almost 30. Yeah.
Almost 30.
When she's almost 30. So, yes, there's that aspect of it, which is strange to me. But, you know, when she does disobey, she is given her space, which is, like, an appropriate emotional reaction. But it's not necessarily the most interesting thing to do from a writing perspective. Like, sometimes you want your characters to make emotional mistakes, and it doesn't feel like this is an emotional mistake. I would have liked to have seen Ahsoka get upset about that, more than just a semi-frustrated conversation with Hera and Hu Yang, like storming down her door, which obviously it can't happen because of the, we have to move the plot along with Shin coming and Sabine's alone and everything, but she does not ever get angry or scold Sabine for this. And I feel like if the reasoning for being upset with her for breaking the rules is because of Ahsoka's emotional trauma, it feels like it would have been more appropriate for her to have more of an emotional reaction.
You have to, like, snap at her.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. And I don't feel like that happened, which makes me think that some of that other stuff, like, it does feel like very resigned. Which I think is kind of the overall tone of these first two episodes, is that there's like this, there's this resentment for this argument that we don't know what happened, right? We don't know how Ahsoka and Sabine had a falling out, but clearly they did, because every other line is reminding us that they did.
Yeah.
Without actually kind of going into
explaining
what specifically happened, which it's okay for a story to take multiple episodes to tell us what happened. That's fine. But,
in a sense, but also we're 25% of the way through the show.
Yes, and that's the thing, is that we spent
also a little.
We spent a very long time dwelling on it, and it was almost like every single sentence, every reaction that Ahsoka had with Yu Yang, every interaction she had with Hera, every interaction she had with Sabine was loaded with this conflict that these two characters have, and there's no like tantalizing hints or anything as to what happened, other than like Sabine feels like Ahsoka abandoned her, and then Ahsoka feels like Sabine is just too difficult.
Yeah.
And there's no real, like, I would have liked a little bit of a tease, at least. Like, I don't think the first two episodes of a show have to explicitly tell you what happened. But, like, a little bit of a tease of there being something more there, of, like, an incident happened, maybe, where someone made a mistake, or so, not just like, oh, she's difficult, I don't want to deal with that. And so, like, it felt kind of weird to dwell on this for a very long time, like, to start the show on a very somber note, and to dwell in that space for 2 whole episodes without kind of giving us a little bit of a hint of why things went so poorly.
Yeah.
Especially with 2 characters that we would think, and even Hera says, I would have thought you would get along great, or that this would have worked out, and there's not really a hint as to why it didn't.
Yeah. And you know, you can, Rebels is a good example of, like, it has a lot of goofy moments because it's a kid show. And that's fine.
And we love it for that.
Yes.
For what it's worth.
But it also, like, addresses a lot of really hardcore shit.
Yes.
And it does both.
Yes.
And that's, like, one of the things that made Rebels really good, was, like, you could have these intense commentary episodes about, like, environmental destruction and stuff like that. And also have, like, Ezra riding Chopper around like a
Roomba.
A crappy Roomba, yeah. like a genocidal Roomba.
Yes. Yes.
And I'm not saying they're going to do that in the live action show, but focusing so heavily on all the different Rebels elements, but lacking
the charm.
Their charm.
Yes.
Was jarring.
Yes, I think that was the big thing that was lacking is like the charm, the levity.
Star Wars always has charm. Like,
yes.
Even Andor, which was like a very dark show,
yes,
had charm.
Yes, yeah. So it was strange because we're so used to seeing these characters. Not to say that war hasn't changed them and all those things. And I love the scene with Hera and Sabine.
Yeah.
I loved seeing that kind of family reunion moment. So like it's clear that we are capable. And it's clear that we know the source material. I mean, these episodes were written by Dave Filoni. Like, obviously, if anyone knows the Rebels source material, it's Dave Filoni. We have Azadi and Jai and these other characters that, are part of the Rebels universe that we could bring in and everything. So it's like, it's clear we have an understanding of what the source material is. But something is being lost in the translation. And we're understandably a little bit taken aback by that.
Yeah.
Not to say that, they couldn't change my mind by making things, by changing things up a little bit, kind of explaining a little bit more, or, we both thought the second episode was better than the first.
Yeah, for sure.
And so I think that they can do better. And I really hope that they do, because we love these characters with our heart and soul, and we want to see good things about them. So it's not that we feel entirely negatively about it, but I definitely think that there were things that left us wanting.
Yeah.
And maybe that's the idea, is that they're like, oh, stick around.
Yeah, well, I'm going to, because
Well,
you
yeah.
have my $8 a month for Disney Plus. Like, that, you got me by the
Yeah.
scruff of the neck.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's the saying.
The scruff. The
Yes.
scruff.
Because the thing is, like, and especially with Ahsoka, like, Ahsoka's, and we talked about this, I think, a little episode 0, but, like, a lot of people, like, really didn't like Ahsoka when she showed up in Clone Wars. She was,
Right.
like, an annoying
14.
preteen, almost.
Yeah. She may have even been younger than 14.
I think she was, like, 12.
I didn't even look it up.
But then she became, like, her, like, how her arc finishes in that is so awesome, and, like, some of the most emotionally impactful episodes when she, like, gives up being a Jedi is incredible.
Mm-hmm.
And then when she shows back up as the Fulcrum in Rebels was also really good. And, like, I really like all the continuous characters besides, like, the clones and stuff, obviously.
Yes,
I
bring
love-
Rex into Ahsoka.
It's a character I love, and I just wanted to do more with her than they've done in the first episode. But there's 6 more episodes, so
Yeah, and
fingers crossed.
I mean, one of my big things that I was hoping for in episode 0 was I wanted Ahsoka's character to stumble and be challenged and overcome challenges. And I feel like this is a big challenge.
Yeah.
Failing at being a teacher is a big challenge. And, like, I know that she's very adamant that she's not a Jedi, and that she's not, like, there's a little line between her and Hu Yang where he's like, well, that's a job for a Jedi Padawan. And you can tell that it stings her. Like, she definitely has an emotional reaction to that. That is kind of what I wanted to see, was, like, a little bit of her grappling with what it means to not be a Jedi. And so, like, it is kind of giving us a little bit of that. And also, if you're not a Jedi, but you're trying to take on an apprentice, and you're trying to teach someone else to be a Jedi, but you're not a Jedi, you could have some challenges with that. But we haven't really explored that side of it yet. It's just like, oh, well, it didn't work out. Trust us, it didn't work out.
Yeah.
Without really kind of going into why yet. So yeah, I, in a sense, am seeing Ahsoka be given challenges that I hope she can overcome.
Yes. Yeah, besides the map thing, that's the driving. What do they call it? The primary mover or whatever for the.
Yes. So that was kind of one moment where that was the moment that took me out of the action the most, was when Ahsoka has this map that she can't unlock.
Oh.
And and Hera's like, I think maybe you should get, you know who could help with that, right? And she's like, I don't think she's interested. It's like, you're literally holding the map that has Thrawn's location and presumably also Ezra's. And you're like...
Also, Sabine is the tinkerer. She will literally mess and take apart and reassemble anything and everything. That was her whole character.
Correct. And also, she's living in Ezra's house.
Yes.
Watching holograms of him paint, like touching the paintings of him and everything. And they're like...
It's yeah, full swim fan there. Yeah. Really missing Ezra. 10 years.
And they're like, I don't think Sabine would be interested in that. And we were both kind of like,
that doesn't make sense.
You know, we're like, that's the stupidest thing anyone's ever said.
Yeah.
That line of dialogue was just, you know, maybe it was whatever. It was just thrown in. But I was like, what? Like, she said that, and I was literally, like, coming off of my seat on the couch, like, what do you mean? Of course Sabine wants to find Ezra.
Are we talking about the same Sabine?
Yeah. She's like, Ahsoka truly thinks that her beef with Sabine is, like, more important to her than missing this important piece of her family? I don't know. That was weird to me. That was probably the most jarring thing that happened. And I mean,
if she wanted to like get her to look at it without interacting with her, she could have literally just like dropped it on her house from the sky, and she still would have looked at it because Sabine has like an endless amount of curiosity.
Yeah.
That's
or had someone else.
Only slightly less dangerous than Ezra's was.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So that, and then the other reveal that kind of left me a little bit like, huh? Morgan's a Night Sister? Or at least descended from Night Sisters?
Yeah, that was weird.
That was odd to me. Because obviously we've seen Morgan before with no mention of this whatsoever. When she fights Ahsoka in The Mandalorian, she doesn't use any Night Sister magic, which she's clearly capable of using in this. Like, we see her use Night Sister magic. She doesn't look like any Night Sisters that we know. Because they all have, like, the super pale, like, gray skin. Now, she does have, like, the little tattoo at the top. Yeah. But that's it. And like grayish hair, but like she's kind of a middle-aged woman, so seeing gray hair on a middle upper-aged woman is not shocking.
Pretty regular, yeah. And you know, we've never seen a live-action Night Sister.
Correct.
So I'll give them that, but then also, you know, so we've seen them in cartoons, and of course they're going to be like an exaggerated. This cartoon,
right, of course.
They're super gaunt, and you know, Asajj Ventress is like a skeleton with a lightsaber.
Marin's fairly close.
But here's the thing. So I was going to say, we have seen essentially a live action Night Sister, Marin, from the Jedi games.
Yes, Jedi Fallen Order series.
Whatever. Yeah, it's just weird to say the Jedi games, but they are literally Jedi : Fallen Order, whatever. Yeah. But we see Marin, and she's like a gray person.
Yeah.
With gray hair.
Yeah.
And like some cool tattoos.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's weird. Like, between like, maybe they're going to introduce like a different faction of Night Sisters because between the world they showed us that was supposed to be Night Sisters.
Yeah.
And Morgan and Elsbeth is supposed to be a Night Sister. They don't look like any Night Sisters we've seen before.
And maybe she's like a subspecies, like, you know, because like, as far as we've known, like, the Night Sisters have been, like, exclusive to Dathomir, which we know they weren't originally from Dathomir. They colonized Dathomir.
But they were pretty... It seemed like when Dathomir got all destroyed, it was, like, kind of the end of the...
Right. So
that was Marin's whole...
Yes, it's definitely
Marin's whole thing about avenging her sisters.
Yes. But I'm suggesting that perhaps... there were original sects that were not on Dathomir.
Yeah.
And that's maybe why Morgan looks so different.
Yeah.
I'm willing to give them so many benefits of the doubt.
Yeah, I mean, they could just be introducing, like, Night Sister Beta or whatever, like a different...
Yeah, like a different...
strain of Night Sister.
Like, you know, you have Iridonian Zabrox and Dathomirian Zabrox, so maybe it's a similar thing.
Yeah.
Maybe. All right.
Still have green magic, though.
As far as the characters go, were there any other characters you wanted to touch on things that surprised you or things that you're pleased about? Some dynamics?
I enjoyed how, like, it does seem, and this isn't like, this is fairly fine and sometimes fun, but there always seems like there has to be a cocky good guy commander that gets like brutally massacred in every show by like assuming we have to demonstrate how bad the bad guys are and how lackadaisical the good guys are by like you're not fooling me. You're not a Jedi. He's like, you're right. I'm not a Jedi.
I'm a big fan of Balin and Shin already, and Shin has not really said that much. I mean, she has spoken, but not that much. 2 lines, yeah. Even though we have a lot of antagonists of this show, which means that they might not get to be explored as much as we would like. I'm very interested in what's going on there.
Yeah, I mean, I want to know why they ended up being the way they are with the orange lightsabers and not being Sith or Jedi, and then how the eighth brother or assuming the eighth brother.
We're assuming still.
It would be real weird if it wasn't the eighth brother. And how he ended up like
he was supposed to die on Malachor. They activated the weapon.
Yeah.
Presumably he should have died or gone through the world between worlds with Ahsoka, but we certainly did not see him there with Ahsoka and Ezra. So.
Yeah. So how did he end up being like a mercenary?
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah, exactly. How did he end up in this situation, and how did? Because like what we get from Huyang, like we know that Balin was a Jedi in the Order and Shin was not.
Yes.
And Balin, left, like he disappeared at the end of the Clone Wars, is what we know.
Like right before Order 66. So.
Well, it doesn't say. It just says he disappeared at the end of the Clone Wars. So we don't know what happened with that. Obviously, there were plenty of Jedi who were unaccounted for after that, and that's kind of what the entire Inquisitorius is all about. So maybe that's when because it seems like to me that Mark is working for him.
Yes.
Don't you get that sense? Because he says like he will complete the task and everything.
Yeah, he's like a subcontractor.
And they show up together a lot.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, they pick him up when he decides. He's like, time to go.
Yeah, they pick him up, and even when we first see the three of them together, it's like they're meeting back up. So it gives me the sense that Mark is not working independently for Morgan. I think he's working for Bale.
Yeah, and that wouldn't be the first time we've had in canon. We mentioned Asajj Adventures earlier, but in the what's the book? Anyways, the one with Quinlan Voss,
Dark Disciple.
She is a bounty hunter. So
yes.
It's not. It's like not a weird concept for a Sith dark side user to just kind of go off and be a contract.
I just think that maybe the two are interlinked. Like maybe they know each other, or maybe
it might not be like a hiring thing. It might be that they are just like
they know
same
each other.
Group.
They were in the Jedi Order together,
yeah.
And Balin disappears after the Clone Wars. Is it possible that Mark was sent to find him as an Inquisitor and kill him, and instead they struck up a deal?
Yeah,
those seem plausible to me. I doubt that they will be addressed. I would be pleasantly surprised if it was. Yes, all I have to say.
Also, if I could hear some lines from Mark.
That would be.
Well, yes.
Are you suggesting that my
nope.
boy is going to? I liked a character.
Not at all.
Therefore, look, we don't have high hopes. But hey, Mark.
Bad things never happened to him.
He survived episodes 1 and 2, and that was far more than I expected. So, a message to all bitches: please survive. I would very much like Mark to make it out of this alive. I don't think that he will, but I didn't think he would make it through the premiere either. Right? Yeah,
it's true. So every 5 minutes he makes it,
I will take another shot.
Yep.
So yeah, I think we talked enough about our protagonists and how we felt about seeing them again. So let's move to what is to come. What do we think is coming next?
Well, I hope we see Thrawn and Ezra.
Well, I think we will see Thrawn. He was in the trailer, so.
No, I mean like in the next episode.
Oh yes, that would be cool.
I want to see them.
We go ahead and open up the portal.
Yes.
What did they call it? The Eye of. That was kind of a cool orbit. Kind of that, like it was like an old Jedi legend that somehow Ahsoka doesn't know about, but Balin suggests that like this portal between universes is a myth that's been circulating with Jedi younglings, and then they're making this like big eye.
Well, it's like the thing from from Survivor. Where they go
Yes.
through
They do a very similar thing in
singing
Jedi
to
Survivor.
go to Canada.
Yeah, for those of you who haven't played it yet, there's a wormhole through galaxies that you can only access in certain ways and conditions that takes you to like a place that you can't normally access in the universe. In that case, it's Tanalorr. So it's very Tanalorr-esque.
Yeah.
To the point where you could literally replace wherever they're going with Tanalorr.
Is the same thing.
Yep, exactly.
Which is fun.
Yeah, we're not hating on that.
Wormholes are cool. Treating the galaxy like an obstacle course is always a fun concept.
Yeah.
Yeah, seeing them like, I don't know what has been going on. Like, how do you go 10 years? Like, have they just been like stalking each other around a ship for 10 years? Like, what, what
you're
happened?
talking between Ezra and
between Ezra and Thrawn. Like, how did that go down?
Well, I guess we'll see where they end up.
Yes.
I thought was very interesting that the little map that they bring up, or like when they activate it, like this keystone on Silor.
Sure.
It starts with an S. The name of this planet.
There are a lot of planets I've never heard of.
With all the red trees. Well, yeah. I think you've heard of Corellia before.
No, they mentioned a bunch of other ones. Though.
No, I know.
It's just a bunch of throwaway
this dark, misty planet with red trees, where they activate this keyhole thing, and there's a bunch of Pergil. Around the spot, like the little beam that's going between galaxies. There's like a portal with a bunch of Pergil around it, which I thought very interesting. That's something that we both agreed that we really wanted to see, was more like environmental and like animal interaction and things. And it's like, well, this is clearly an ancient artifact and an ancient portal and everything, but even those ancient people understood the link between Pergil and space travel. So I thought that was cool, and yes. I'm with you. I'm ready to see Thrawn and Ezra. I'm also I'm glad that Sabine and Ahsoka have settled whatever their difference is, and I want to see them going forward, kind of rebuilding, and maybe that we get some hints about what happened and what caused them to fall out in the first place. And I hope for a more emotionally evocative banter between them, not just like being stiff, like getting angry or being excited or sad. Like any of those emotions are fine. Give us a stronger emotional reaction instead of just being stoic and wise. Is kind of what I'm looking for.
Interesting.
Yeah, more interesting. What about Hera and Chopper? What do you want to see from them? I don't think that they're going to this planet, are they? Well, that's good because we saw it last night. So yeah, I know. There were a lot of things to catch your eye and everything. So
I love Hera. She's a very feel-good character.
Yeah.
And then obviously Chopper. Maybe he'll get to kill an entire ship full of people again. That'd be cool.
Oh, we would all love to see
the character
Chopper
with the
back
highest kill count in most of the rebellion, except for the Luke who blew up the Death Star.
I want to watch Hera and Ezra reunite. And
I want to see everybody reunite. Yes.
Ezra doesn't know that Hera was pregnant. Ezra doesn't know that Hera has a son.
That's right.
He doesn't know that Kanan has a son. I would love to see an Ezra and Jason interaction. It doesn't necessarily have to be next episode, but I would like to see that.
I feel like that's something they would do like the finale.
That would be so good. Is like my mentor still lives. Like obviously he's part of the living force, but he has a son too, and like, it's also kind of interesting to me that like there's this whole like mentorship dynamic between Ahsoka and Sabine, but we haven't seen Jason yet, and so like, is Jason sense forcible? Is he sense forcible? Is he force sensitive? Has he spoken to, like, obviously Ahsoka has close ties to Luke these days. Has he met Luke Skywalker? Everything so far would indicate that he's maybe not force sensitive because we didn't see him in training camp with Grogu.
He wasn't chased by Inquisitor either.
Well, he wasn't born yet. The end of Rebels is like 0 BBY, and as far as we know, every Inquisitor is dead by then. Except clearly Marek. Except clearly Marek. So every Inquisitor that we know of is dead by the time
Okay. So
Jason is born. So I mean, it's I think it's okay that we don't that we haven't seen him be chased by the Inquisitors. I don't know how they would know about him.
Yeah.
To be honest, but
also I want to see Ezra like look at Hera and be like, wait a second, y'all were more than friends.
That would add. We want levity.
Yeah.
We want
like y'all were
the charm of the original series, and I think that would be hilarious. I would love to see that. I would also love to see, like we're not big shippers here, to be honest.
Nope.
Neither of us really care for that scene. Sorry, our son, the cat, is acting up. So he is. We have 2 cats who are both our sons, but one of them is making a lot of noise right now. So he's being banished right here.
Pay the cat tax.
Yep, he's paying the cat tax. This is our son, Leto, not Jason. Cinderella. Yes, what a good boy. Anyways, shit, what was I saying?
Just levity and
Yes. The levity and the charm from Rebels. We really want to see that. We're looking forward to bringing those elements into this show. Like, it's okay for it to be a little somber, like a war happened and we were all spread apart. And I just want to see them all back together again and happy and all of those things. Call me a filthy rebel, but
have the fun repertoire and like go through their experiences and like kind of parse through everything, but in like a fun way.
Back to his crimes. Yeah. And also, I remember what I was saying now. So when Sabine is looking at the little holodisc, again, we're not big shippers. We've never been into that scene. We don't have any stake in this race whatsoever. But Ezra says that he sees her as a sister, and I think, well, one, in early Rebels, it's clear that was not necessarily the case because he was definitely, as a 14-year-old, actively trying to flirt with this 17-year-old who was like, oh, gross, you're 14, whatever. But now we see hints that maybe Sabine feels otherwise.
Possibly, yeah.
Like, I don't know that you see a picture of your brother and you go.
Probably not.
I think that there's more going on for Sabine. But it would be interesting to see, like, the tables turned a little bit. That, like, Ezra's not the one being kind of flirty with her, but, like, she's being kind of, like, a little bit more, like, romantically or, like, pining. Not pining. I don't really like pining as a trope. It's okay if you do. I'm not judging you for doing that. But, like, kind of to see the tables reverse a little bit and, like, to see Ezra being like, wait, you were like a sister to me. What do you mean? I think that would be a fun dynamic. They're, like, 30-year-olds now. So, like, I think it would be okay to, like, explore that a little bit and be, like, and trying to figure out what they mean to each other now after so many years apart from each other.
Yeah.
It's like, are you really seeing me like a brother or a sister? Or is there more to this? Or, is this the relationship that we want to have? Which I think is perfectly fine for them to be brother and sister and kind of go back to that joking place where they were before. Or if they want to take the more romantic angle, that's fine too. If they want to be like, oh, Sabine clearly sees more than a brother relationship out of this. I think either just one like of those. Did. Yeah, exactly. Just like Leia did. Yeah, I'm aware of what happened. But I think that charm and like that aspect, like as much as we're like romance and media. It's fine if it's done right, and also I think it's kind of a core thing for Star Wars. Yeah. Like the original trilogy had a romance at the core of it, and the sequel trilogy, no. The sequel trilogy did not really have romance at the core of it. The prequels did though. Like the romance, and the relationship building was definitely a core charming component of both of those things. Like we love Anakin's stupid sand joke. It's funny. We like seeing the awkward.
It's ubiquitous now. Yes.
Yeah, of course. We like seeing that kind of like awkward because like real romance is kind of like that. Like you say awkward, stupid stuff to the other person, and same with Han and Leia and Luke and that weird thing they had going on in the beginning before they sorted out. Like those things are charming, and in retrospect, we enjoy them. So I think that it could be done in a way that is charming and enjoyable.
And funny.
That's a big thing.
and charming.
And charming, please don't make it weird and cringe. That's all we ask about it.
Yes.
We do not, we do not really participate in shipping anything. But I see it all the time and it doesn't bother me. It's whatever. But it's certainly something that we don't mind. And if done well, I think it could be fun.
Agreed.
All right, y'all, we're approaching the 1 hour and 10-minute mark. We were really concerned about making it to an hour over this, but clearly we still have a lot to say about episodes 1 and 2, and we're really looking forward to next week.
Yep.
And Ashla, what is it? They call Ashla and Bogan, but Ashla's the light side of the Force, and Bogan's the dark side of the Force. So Bogan, please protect my dear friend Mark.
Yeah.
That's literally...
Sweet Satan. Please, Space Satan, protect our
sweet
baby boy
Mark, who, adios, bitch.
Also, Bogan is funny.
Yes, because of all the Australians.
Australian
Apologize to all of our Australian listeners. That is legitimately what the dark side of the Force entity is called. Or the sun. Because you have the daughter and the son and the father. But this is a show about exploring the gray. So we'll see what happens. Please stay tuned. Tomorrow I'll have my art stream, barring some
unforeseen circumstance.
Yeah, like last week when I got stuck in traffic. But hey, this will be going up on YouTube soon, or you can catch us on Wednesdays, 8 p.m. Even though Ahsoka's now airing on Tuesdays, which we didn't know when we made this, but this is still a convenient time for us. So we hope to see you next week or on the YouTube channels. Feel free to reach out, and
we'll see you.
Hey. Oh, it's hot. Let's get that fan back on.
Yeah, let's go take a shower.
Okay.
Hi, Kiki. Let me see. I don't see that.
Booze.